In the last 10 years, the Dodge Chargers and Challengers have grown in popularity to the point that it's hard to not see them everywhere. We see these cars at the drag strip, at car shows and movies, and especially at intersection takeovers and sideshows. Not judging, just making an observation. But why are they so popular? How did they get to be so big? We're gonna get into this in just a moment. Did you know that the average driver gets 9 traffic tickets in their lifetime? Look, I'll be the first to admit that I've taken maybe a couple of liberties with traffic laws back in the day. And of course, when I got caught, I had to go to court to fight the ticket, which was always a hassle. And each time that I lost my case, it meant big fines, points on my record, and higher insurance premiums. Eventually, I realized that nothing beats having a good attorney argue your case in court. So here's what you do. You download the Off the Record app to your phone and register for an account. And if you get a ticket, simply upload a photo of your ticket into the app and you will be quickly matched with a lawyer in your jurisdiction. Your lawyer will start working your case right away, and in most cases, you'll never have to set foot in a courtroom. Off the Record has a 97% success rate and a 4.9 star rating on Google. And guess what? They even offer a money-back guarantee if they aren't able to reduce the points or keep that ticket fully off your record. Best of all, I've arranged a 10% discount for all of my YouTube viewers, so download the app and register using the referral code FASTLIFE to receive 10% off your first case. People my age grew up with the muscle cars of the late 1960s and early 70s. My high school's parking lot was full of those kinds of cars. Among those cars were many Dodge, Chrysler, and Plymouth products, including cars like Barracuda of the 1960s, Dodge Darts, Cornettes, and of course the Challengers and Chargers were everywhere. It's not like people in my high school were driving Super Bs or anything like that, but some of those cars were in the parking lot. And with the right options and the engine setup, these cars struck fear into the hearts of Mustang owners, Camaro owners, and pretty much everybody else who was driving around in a muscle car that day. But after the oil embargo of the early 1970s, the United States started moving towards smaller, lighter, and more fuel-efficient cars because back then, gas had just gone up to $1 a gallon. That was a big deal. By the early 1980s, the Dodge Charger that was being sold was a goofy-looking front-wheel drive hatchback featuring a tiny 2.2-liter four-cylinder making about 84 horsepower. It didn't look, drive, or perform like its predecessors of the 1960s and the 1970s. It was nothing like it. Frankly, they looked like a car that a lot of people hated, which was the Chevy Vega. But believe it or not, they were selling pretty well. And when I looked it up, I couldn't believe it. 7,300 cars were built and sold around for 1981. 15,000 were made for 1982. And a Shelby version, of course, came in 1985 that actually made 96 horsepower. And that was a big bump up from the 76 or whatever it was originally. In 1983, Dodge started selling Shelby modified Chargers by Carroll Shelby. And by 1985, the Shelby Charger was making 146 horsepower. That was pretty close to some of the Camaros and Trans Ams of those days. But by the end of the model run in 1987, the Shelby GLHS Special Edition made 176 horsepower. Now we're talking. And the early 1980s Dodge Challengers weren't anything like their predecessors either. If you take a look at this picture, it looks nothing like a Challenger of the days before, right? The Challengers back then were available with a tiny 1.6-liter four-banger or a larger 2.6-liter four-cylinder making about 100 horsepower. And they were built by Mitsubishi and had many names around the world. At least they were rear-wheel drive and were available with a manual transmission. I drove one. It was actually pretty good, but it was just kind of weird looking when you come from the old school stuff, you know? But by the late 1990s, Chrysler Dodge Plymouth was producing boring and some say unreliable cars. Cars like the Dodge Neon, the Dodge Stratus, the Dodge Intrepid, and the early Chrysler 300Cs looked and felt and drove like every other rental car you'd find any place else. The excitement had just completely left the brand. And then in 1998, of course, Chrysler became Daimler Chrysler as Daimler-Benz acquired the brand. So, as Dodge was getting ready to reinvent itself for the future, they looked at their past. What did they come up with? We already know. Their goal was to bring excitement back to the brand. In 2007, Chrysler started taking deposits on a new iteration of the famed Dodge Challenger and Dodge Charger nameplates. The design of the Challenger, of course, was pretty much taken from the 1970 Challenger RT. The cars actually went into production in May of 2008, as I recall. And they started off with the low-end model, the base SE, which got the 3.5-liter V6 making 250 horsepower. And of course, the SE in later years was replaced with the SXT. In 2008, the SRT8 version was also released using a 6.1-liter Hemi making 425 horsepower. And at last, the Challenger was finally reborn in the proper way. In 2009, 4 trim levels were being offered: the SE, the RT, the SRT8, the SXT, which was only for the Canadians. Of course, the SE again used the 3.5-liter 6-cylinder. The RT included a 5.7-liter Hemi V8, making 372 horsepower in the automatic, but the manual 6-speed got 375 horsepower and 404 pound-feet of torque, probably because of the transmission changes. And of course, there have been small changes in features and equipment over the years that I won't get into because it would take me an hour to do it. In 2017, a Challenger GT was launched, which used a V6 and all-wheel drive configuration for people who live in the snowy states and would like to drive a nice car during that period of time. 2015, of course, was the big year for the Challenger, and that year we got the SRT name retired, and it was now to be designated as the SRT 392. Dodge also released the SRT Hellcat that year, and that's when everything lit up. The Hellcat, of course, used a supercharged 6.2-liter Hemi engine, churning out 707 horsepower in its first year. The 5-speed automatic transmission was replaced by a new, beefier 8-speed ZF automatic transmission. But the biggest, baddest, most insane version of all the Challenge has to be the SRT Dodge Demon. Much like its grandfather back in the 1960s, the Demon was built for serious drag racers. This wasn't a bragging car. It's a serious drag racing car. It's a wide body, and while it's lighter but not stripped to the bare minimums like other drag cars of the 1960s, it's actually still street legal. The Demon uses an all-new version of the 6.2-liter V8 engine, equipped now with a 2.7-liter supercharger, which is now rated at 108 horsepower on 91 octane and 840 with 100 octane fuel or higher. That's insane. Those power outputs are only achievable, of course, when the owners use the red key fob supplied with the car. Make sure you give the black key fob to the valet guys. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. Torque was rated at 770 pound-feet if you're using 100 octane fuel. The car weighs at about 215 pounds less than the Hellcat. The total weight is 4,254 pounds. The SRT Demon also uses a set of hybrid drag street tires made by Nitto. A lot of drag racers know this tires, the NT05 with 315/40s in the rear. These tires, of course, are targeted for the drag strip, but have enough tread pattern to make them legal for the road. But if it rains even a little bit, you're probably better off pulling it over and sitting out the storm, because just a little bit too much throttle and you're going to be calling your insurance company. The tires were actually built specifically to handle the output of the Dodge Demon. This makes the Challenger SRT Demon the first production car to be equipped with a set of drag radial road tires. The SRT Demon also uses a system that has been used in drag racing for decades. It's called a trans brake. All you pro drag racers with automatic transmission, you already know what this is about. A trans brake basically puts the transmission in first gear and second gear simultaneously, which effectively holds the Demon stationary so it doesn't creep through the lights. This is used along with the car's torque converter to help build up hydraulic pressure before the launch. Now, this isn't a new concept. Like I said, it's been done in drag racing cars for more than 6 decades, but it's the first time a car company has actually installed one at the factory. The power to weight ratio is what makes this car a champion. It's an impressive 418 horsepower per ton on 91 octane and 435 horsepower per ton on 100 octane or higher. The SRT Demon therefore accelerates from 0 to 30 in 1 second flat, which should make for great 60-foot times. 0 to 60 miles per hour flies by in 2.3 seconds. 0 to 100 takes 5.1 seconds. The car was factory limited to a top speed of 168 miles per hour, and the quarter mile flashed by in only 9.65 seconds at about 140 miles an hour. These numbers, as you can probably guess, are in supercar territory. It also makes the Demon the fastest non-electric production car to reach 0 to 60 miles an hour and to complete a straight line quarter mile at the time of its announcement. The Demon is also capable of accelerating at 1.8 Gs of force at launch, making it the hardest launching gasoline production car of today. The boost pressure of the supercharger can actually be increased to 14 psi, and the red line moved up to 6,500 RPMs. With this extreme power and hard acceleration, the Demon is the first production car to be able to perform a wheelie right out of the box, pretty much, except I'm not sure about the front tires. And with the control module from the Demon crate, you Dodge guys know what I'm talking about, and high-speed tires, the Demon has attained a top speed of over 200 miles an hour in test runs. just out of curiosity, I started shopping for these cars. 2016 Hellcats are selling for about $40,000 in that range, which is a damn bargain if you ask me. Scat Packs of the same year, 2016, are selling for just under $40,000 with reasonable miles. Dodge Demons, of course, are another story. Most of them are going for $130,000 plus. The high cost of entry for that car should price this car all but out of the range for the average sideshow attendees. So that means you're going to have serious coin to pick up one of those cars. Assuming you're not ready to drop 140 grand for a Demon, there's no shame in starting off in a lower model. These cars all look good. You'd be hard pressed to tell one apart from the other one at any trim level unless you really knew it. But if you can afford it, I'd suggest a Scat Pack. Used ones are relatively affordable, and a few choice bolt-ons can up the power even further. As a matter of fact, YouTube is flooded with videos of that kind of stuff. Of course, the first mod is to remove those silly yellow splitter guards. What are we doing, people? They're the training wheels of the new generation. Can you just take that stuff off? I see Porsches and Ferraris and Lambos driving around with $3,000 carbon fiber splitters without any of that nonsense of us. So put some clear bra on if you're really scared about it. On the Scat Pack, you're going to want to look at cold air intakes. If you're going to mod them, preferably one that has the air filter and sealed in a box. You know, the basic stuff. The long tube headers would be next, assuming your car is for off-road use only. Wink, wink. For the exhaust, you've got lots of options, but if you don't want to kill torque, you'll want to keep some sort of mufflers on the car. For my MagnaFlow days, I think 2.5-inch pipes are probably all you need for a car like that, but if you're talking about bigger power, then you're going to have to look at something else. MagnaFlow actually makes a system called the X-Mod, which uses 3-inch pipes, and it's got a switch in it so you can turn it louder and so forth. A fellow YouTuber did a video, Racer X. He noted that the system, that the Mod X system only made 8 horsepower over stock. And that's pretty impressive given how efficient the factory exhaust system is, but another good thing about the MagnaFlow is that there's no drone in the system. The big drawback of that is the price, $3,000 retail. Another YouTuber, Scott Persifield, dynoed one with all the best bolt downs and saw 50 horsepower bump and 45 more torque over the factory 430 wheel horsepower that they usually see on a dyno for that car, the Scat Pack I'm talking about. The guys at National Speed actually did a great video showcasing stage 1 to stage 3, all their recommendations for the 2021 Scat Pack. Most of that will apply for the earlier models too. And their model list basically mirrors the conventional wisdom as to how to increase the performance of a naturally aspirated car. Again, I'm talking about the Scat Pack or any natural aspirated V8. I'll put the link below in the description so you can check it out and get the parts list. Let's not forget that acceleration is affected by weight and traction. If you're going to change the wheels, please don't buy some $100 cheap, big black wheels and all that kind of stuff. Get some lightweight ones. Resist the urge to buy the big, heavy bargain wheels. Another way to get moving quicker is a stickier tire. If you're going to be a drag race guy, that kind of guy, you're going to need to look for hybrid street drag race tires, assuming that you're looking for those quick launches and fast 0 to 60 times. If canyon carving is your jam, then you're going to have to make your choice based on a lot of other factors and how you use the car. Lateral acceleration, grip at the limit, that kind of stuff. One last tip. If you're thinking about buying one of these cars, really research the car's history. Many of these cars have been abused because they're affordable, fast and powerful, and so people do that. So be sure to have an expert inspect the underside of the car and check the Carfax. You want somebody who knows what they're doing, because if you can't afford the inspection, you can't afford the repairs. So if you're looking for a fun car that will keep your interest for a while, the Dodge Challengers and Chargers are really great. I mean, it's just fantastic. The Scat Packs and the Hellcats will definitely be collector's cars in the future, so you're probably not going to lose any money on those cars. Frankly, I think Dodge has done an amazing job of bringing new blood into the car scene and bringing old blood back to the brand. And so if you're lucky enough to own one of these cars, you'd be well advised to use your new power wisely. Cops seem to be targeting these cars for emissions and moving violations, at least where I live here in Southern California. So just be careful, all right? Don't let anybody catch you rolling dirty, as they say. Do they still say that? Thanks for watching.